So my last video covered a build that was all about giving our crits to allies. But how can we take advantage of that while at the same time helping our party? Well, that's what today's build is about. So let's dive in. So this is a Pathfinder 1E teamwork build, obviously, and we want to be mounted for it. And of course, the best class for that is the Cavalier. We aren't going to be archetyping in this build, and we're going to take Cavalier all the way to level 20. But we're not going to be taking Supreme Charge at level 20. We are essentially going to get Supreme Charge through two of our feats much earlier. So there's no real reason for us to take it. Instead, we're going to use the Tactical Genius Alternate Capstone. This will give us a third bonus teamwork feat, allow us to give 3 teamwork feats with our Tactician ability, and increase the range of our Tactician ability to 90 feet. Of course, as a Cavalier, we need to pick up an order. We're going to pick up the Order of the Dragon. That one is the best order for teamwork, period. So whenever we challenge a foe, we give our allies a +1 circumstance bonus on melee attacks against the target of our challenge. This of course increases by +1 for every 4 Cavalier levels we have. So level 20, that's +6 to all of our allies' melee attacks against the target of our challenge. We also get Aid Allies at 2nd level. Whenever we use the Aid Another action, we give a +3 instead of a +2 to that ally's armor class, attack roll, skill check, or saving throw. At 8th, 14th, and 20th level, this bonus increases by +1. Sometimes with this build, it's better to do this than to attack, especially in the beginning. Because, yes, if we crit, especially on a charge, we're going to be doing a ton of damage. But sometimes we'll want to save our attack for when my previous build gives us a crit. So this is something that we can do when we can't charge or we don't want to charge. Then at 8th, we'll pick up Strategy. As a standard action, we can grant one of the following bonuses to all allies within 30 feet, including ourselves. Either a +2 to AC for a round, a +2 to attack rolls for a round, or the ability to move up to their speed once. We can grant a different ability to each ally, but each ally can only benefit from this ability once per combat. So we can give ourselves a +2 to AC, since we're not going to be able to attack this round. But then we can give our Doesn't Sting build a +2 to hit, which is going to help them crits. And everyone else we can give any of the advantages to. But we'll want to give the one that allows them to move to any melee attackers that aren't within range yet. Overall, just pick the one that's best for the situation that every character is in. Act as 1 at 15th level essentially gives us all these benefits at once. So we can move up to our speed and make a melee attack as a standard action. All allies within 30 feet also gain this ability. They do so as an immediate action. This movement and attack can be made as a charge if the movement qualifies. All these attacks are made at a +2 bonus. And yes, this does stack with the bonus from charging. Also, all participants receive a +2 bonus to their AC for 1 round. But again, we can only use this ability once per combat. This will help us get our melee attacking friends right in there. The race for this build is going to be a human, but we're not going to gain the bonus feat for being human. Instead, we're going to pick up the Eye for Talent racial traits. This will give us a +2 on sense motive checks. However, that's not why we're taking this trait. We're taking it because it gives our mount a +2 to any ability score we want. We need our animal companion to start with an intelligence of 4, because of some of the feats we're going to need to take. But I'll get to those later in the video. The weapons for this build are going to be a lance for when we can charge, and a scythe for when we can't. These two will give us the most damage whenever we crit. Which remember, we're taking advantage of my last build that I did on this channel. Which means we don't have to worry about critical hit chance. Now, our first trait for this build is going to be Red Mantis Bleeding. Now, whenever we crit with our scythe, we deal 1 point of bleed damage. Then our second trait is going to be Tempestuous Combatant. Once per day, we get to pick one opponent. Us and our mount do not provoke attacks of opportunity for moving out of or within that foe's threatened area. At high levels, our mount will be picking up a feat that will allow us to charge 2 enemies in the same turn. So our most important stat for this build is going to be strength. We want as much critical hit damage as we can in this build. Then we're going to need dexterity to be our second highest. Our ride checks are going to go off our dexterity, so we need that to be high. Then a lot of our cavalier abilities are going to go off charisma, so that's the next most important. Then constitution for our HP, wisdom for our will saves, and then the least important stat for this build, intelligence. Nothing in this build goes off intelligence, and we don't need that many skills either. In fact, we're probably only going to need ride and maybe intimidation. But that's it. Now let's get into feats in which there are a ton to cover. Especially since we gotta cover the mount feats too. But we're gonna start with the feats for our actual cavalier. First up we have mounted combat. Once per round, if an enemy tries to hit our mount, we can make a ride check as an immediate action. If our ride check is higher than the opponent's attack roll, then the hit is negated. This feat right here is the main reason why our dex is so important, and why ride is such an important skill for us. Then for our bonus teamwork feat that we're going to get at first level, we want to pick up Precise Strike. This will give us and our allies an extra 1d6 precision damage whenever we are flanking the same foe. Remember that we can give our teamwork feats to our allies as a standard action, and they don't have to meet the prerequisites. This is just to help us do a little more critical hit damage, and for all of our allies to do a little more damage, period. Assuming we're flanking with them, of course. Next up is Ride by Attack. This will allow us to move again after we make a charge. We can't go more than double our mounted speed though. We're mainly taking this because it's a prerequisite for the next feat on this list, which is of course Spirited Charge. Now we finally have mostly what Supreme Charge gives us at 20th level. Whenever we charge, we deal double damage. Although, since we'll be using a lance whenever we want to charge, we'll actually be doing triple damage. Keep in mind that a lance has a ×3 critical hit modifier. That means when whoever's playing my Death Sting build gives us a crit, we'll do triple damage and then triple damage again because we crit. This is essentially our do massive damage feat. The next feat in this build is Wheeling Charge. Now we can make a turn of up to 90 degrees once during our charge. We can also attack at any point during our charge. We do have to move at least 10 feet during each part of our charge. Also, our movement can't exceed double our mounted range. But the most important part of this feat is that allies do not impede our charge. We just can't attack from or end our move in an ally's space. This is just to give us more versatility with our charge. Now we'll get away from the mounted feats for a while with combat reflexes. We need this number 1 because our dex is going to be high, and number 2 because it's a prerequisite for a feat we're going to take later. This of course will give us attacks of opportunity equal to our dexterity modifier. Our dexterity modifier isn't as important as it was for my Death Sting build, but it is important to this build. Now, for our next teamwork feat, we're going to also need Improved Critical in addition to Combat Reflexes. Improved Critical will double our threat range to 19 to 20 with one of our weapons. We probably want to choose our Scythe for this, because the other build is probably going to give us crits when we want to charge. But honestly, you could pick either weapon for this, it really doesn't matter. Now that we have all the prerequisites for it, we can finally take our second bonus teamwork feat, Seize the Moment. We can now give one teamwork feat to our allies as a swift action. And with this feat, whenever we crit, we give our allies an attack of opportunity. This will give the build that's giving us all of our crits another attack. And another attack for them equals more of a crit chance. We will need to confirm some of our crits, so we're going to need to take Critical Focus. Plus, critical focus is a prerequisite for the feats that really make this build a teamwork build. If you don't know, critical focus will give us a +4 to confirm crits. Next up is quick draw. This will allow us to switch between our lance and our scythe more easily. Now when we're done with our charge, we don't have to drop our lance. Instead, we can put our lance away as a move action and pull out our scythe as a free action. Then we'll take dodge, as we're going to need that for another feat we're going to take later. This will give us a +1 bonus to our AC, and having higher AC is always good too. Now we get to the critical feats, the ones that impose conditions whenever we crit. Our first one is going to be flaying critical. Now every time we crit, we reduce the enemy's natural armor by 1 for the duration of the encounter. This effect is cumulative. A lot of foes, especially monsters, have natural armor. With this feat, every time we crit, we can make it easier and easier for our party to hit them. Then we'll take tiring critical. The fatigued character cannot charge or run, and takes a -2 penalty to strength and dexterity. This isn't really going to affect spellcasters, but that's why teamwork is so important. Other party members can deal with spellcasters if you're having trouble with them. For our third bonus teamwork feat, we'll want to pick up Lenorm Hunter style. Once per round while using this style, when an ally hits the target you both threaten with a melee attack, you receive a +2 bonus on attacks of opportunity for a round. Also, enemies that provoke an attack of opportunity from your ally also provoke an attack of opportunity from you as long as you threaten them, even if a situation or ability will prevent you from doing so. And with this feat, every time one of us gets an attack of opportunity, the other gets one as well. And since both builds have combat reflexes, we can keep doing this until either one of us runs out of attacks of opportunity or the enemy goes down. Next up we have Sickening Critical. Whenever we crit, we can choose to make the foe sickened. Now we're not a fighter, so we can't take critical mastery. That means we only get one of these conditions per time we crit. However, thanks to our friend, we're going to be critting a lot more than we could alone. And all these conditions that we're taking are going to last a long time. And fatigued and sickened do stack, so keep that in mind. Alright, then we'll want to take Exhausting Critical. This will give our foe a -6 penalty to their strength and dexterity. This won't stack with the fatigue condition, but we need Tiring Critical to take Exhausting Critical. However, Exhausting Critical will stack with Sickening Critical. That means over the course of 2 crits, we can give our foe a -8 penalty to everything that is dexterity or strength based, and then a -2 penalty to basically everything else. That foe is getting really debilitated, especially if they go off dexterity or strength. Now we still gotta talk about feats for our mount, but this is the last feat we're gonna take for our Cavalier. Thanks to Tactical Genius, we'll get one more bonus teamwork feat. And for that, we will take Lenorm Hunter Retreat. This feat is why we need dodge. So when an ally uses Lenorm Hunter style and hits with a melee attack, then we can take a 5-foot step as an immediate action. This is so that in most cases, we can mount without provoking an attack of opportunity if we aren't mounted. Alright, now we finally get to mount feats. This is going to sound strange, but the first feat we want to take for our mount is Improved Unarmed Strike. This is mainly because it's a prerequisite for some feats that we need to take. And we can't take Weapon Focus for our mount yet, so we might as well take this. But yeah, this feat doesn't really do much for our mount other than meet prerequisites. Then we can take Weapon Focus. Now for this, you'll want to pick whatever natural weapon your mount is going to use the most. This will give our mount a +1 to hit with that natural weapon. We also need this feat for our mount's next feats. Next, in order to effectively use our Improved Unarmed Strike, we're going to need to take Feral Weapon Training. This will allow us to use the natural weapon that we selected with Weapon Focus for the purposes of feats that require Improved Unarmed Strike. This will make Improved Unarmed Strike actually useful for our mounts. Next up, we're going to need Devotion Against the Unnatural, We don't want our mount to get spooked by unnatural auras, so this will make it immune to that. This will also give it a +2 bonus on saves against spells, spell-like abilities, and supernatural abilities of certain creatures. Then we want our mount to do a little bit more damage, so we're going to be taking improved natural attack. Again, we'll want to choose the same natural weapon that we chose for weapon focus. This will increase its damage dice by 1 step. We don't care as much about our mount's damage, but we do care some about that damage. Then our mount's last 3 feats are all going to be under the same line. These 3 feats are the main reason why we need improved unarmed strike. The first is Barracuda style. With this feat, our natural attacks deal normal damage while underwater. Also, while underwater, we don't take the penalty for making natural attacks. Our mount also gets to add its wisdom modifier and its strength modifier to swim checks. I know it seems like we're never going to use this feat, but it is a prerequisite for the feat that we really need our mount to have. And then another prerequisite for that feat is Barracuda Slam. With this feat, while underwater, our mount can move at half its speed as a move action, and its full speed as a full round action. Our mount can also charge or run underwater, but it does so at half the normal speed. Further, while making a charge attack underwater or on land, our mount can add twice its strength modifier to the damage roll of its first natural attack on its turn. Again, this is another way to give our mount more damage. And of course, if we happen to run into a situation where we are underwater, our mount can function more effectively. But all the feats that our mount has taken so far has led up to this feat. Our last feat for our mount is going to be Barracuda Dash. First of all, our mount gets a swim speed equal to its land speed. In addition, while making a charge attack either in water or on land, if our mount hits, then we can make a second charge attack against a second opponent. All the normal requirements for making a charge apply to this second charge attack. The total distance of both charges cannot exceed the normal maximum distance for a charge. So basically, we can make 2 charge attacks per turn as long as the enemies are far enough apart. Thanks to our wheeling charge, we can even make a turn during this charge. Pretty good, I'd say. So for magic items, I want to start with the Arbalest Cloak. The wearer of this cloak can activate it as a swift action. Doing so makes the wearer count as though they had armor spikes with which they were proficient. Also, while the cloak is active, the wearer can walk on air as though affected by the Airwalk spell. If mounted, this applies to the mount. Also, on the first successful charge attack made while the cloak is active, the wearer deals 1d6 additional damage, plus an additional 1d6 for every 20 feet the wearer traveled during the charge. Then we've got the Equestrian Belt. The wearer of this belt automatically succeeds on any ride checks to guide their mount with their knees, stay in the saddle, fight with a combat-trained mount, control the mount in battle, or make a fast mount or dismount, as long as the wearer is wearing medium or less armor. So basically, we succeed on all of our ride checks to use our mount in combat. In addition, we receive a +4 competence bonus on other ride checks, including ones to stop an attack with mounted combat. Then we'll want to get some Horseshoes of Glory. While our mount is wearing all 4 horseshoes, we can change its size category to 1 higher. We can also use Beast Shape 4 to transform it into a magical beast. In addition, while augmented, our mount gains damage reduction 5 against any alignment. We choose this alignment when we activate the horseshoes. This may be a once per day thing, but it does allow our mount to do more damage. Alright, next is Bridle of Charon. Once per day, when we're riding our mount, we can activate this item as part of our mount's movement. Doing so makes our mount incorporeal during its movement, but it must end its move in an unoccupied space. Any object that the creature passes through begins to crumble and loses half its hit points, ignoring its hardness. Living creature that we pass through must make a DC 20 fortitude save or take a -4 to its strength, dexterity, and constitution for 1 minute. This is so that when we want to charge that boss, we can go right through enemies in our way and possibly debuff them at the same time. And finally, we'll want to pick up a comparison of resistance. This will give our mount a +1 to +5 to all its saving throws. In addition, while we're riding it, we also gain these bonuses. So most of the time, we won't need a Cloak of Resistance, because we'll be riding our mount. Alright guys, if you haven't checked out my last video, you can do so right here. It's very important that you check out that video as well, because this build won't seem very good until you look at that build. Remember, teamwork is vital, and I'll see you guys next time.